It's great. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you. I wish I could be with you in person and enjoy listening to the poets that you've got with you. There's nothing better if you're studying poetry than hearing from poets and hearing them talk about their work and read their poems. I think it's really important, if you're studying modern poetry for this exam, or indeed any kind of poetry, hearing from poets read their own work, talking about how they came to write it, their own reflections on it, and hearing different poets, which will give you different perspectives. This is all absolutely essential preparation. It's the sort of thing, after all, that we as examiners have to do when we're choosing your unseen poems. Be making your own adventures and your own explorations. Of course, we hope you'll love the poems you're doing for Section B as well, but think about some poets. You may really enjoy somebody like Kate Tempest here, or Luke Wright, in-your-face poets who write to perform their work. You might like something that's amusing and funny. You all know about Michael Rosen, don't you? Lots of other poets are available. Talk to your teachers, see what they like, talk to your classmates, and share your ideas and enthusiasms. The more you're reading, the wider your repertoire of poems that you can read and talk about, the better prepared you will be for this examination. I really hope you will be inspired by this collection and by the other poetry that you're reading, because some of you, we hope, are going to go on and write your own poetry and do other kinds of writing. Here's Simon Armitage, whom you will know. He's in the anthology and you perhaps studied him already. Until he was in about year 10, poetry really didn't speak to him or didn't mean much to him. But the anthology that he's holding up there showed him suddenly that it could be about people like him living in places like he did in Yorkshire. And, well, the rest, as you know, is history. Here he is, still with that book that he loved so much, he never handed it back to his teacher. I found it really stimulating and interesting. I knew some of the names. I knew Seamus Heaney, for example. I'd even seen Patience Agbarby and Andrew Motion read and talk about their own poems in person. But I don't think I'd read any of these poems myself before I opened up the anthology like you're doing. So it's been challenging, it's been fascinating. I've really enjoyed making new discoveries, discovering new poets whom I wasn't really familiar with, and seeing interesting ways that they write and what they talk about their experience. And also, of course, as we read your responses in the exam, how fascinating it is, the different ways that you and your teachers show you ways into the poetry. So each time I revisit the poems in this anthology, I'm finding new things and learning new things from people like you. When I'm reading a poem for the first time, something I've not come across before, I'm going to need to read it slowly, to be reflecting on it, to try to hear the voice of the poet, the person in the poem, work out what they're trying to say to me, listening to things that I'm going to find really interesting or perhaps puzzling, surprising. And after I've read it, there'll probably be a minute or two where I just sit quietly and think, well, that was good, that was interesting, that was clever, I really like that choice of words, or I don't really understand that, I'm going to need to go back and read it again. Well, of course, that's slightly different and a bit more intense, isn't it? But I'd like you to try and keep some of that initial reaction because that's natural and it helps you to get into the poem. Michael Rosen, the poet, has some suggestions where the first question he says that you might want to ask is, what does it remind me about something that happened to me or something that happened to somebody in my family or one of my friends? And then, does it remind me of something that I've read elsewhere or seen in a TV program or in a film. And then thirdly, if I could talk to the poet or the person in the poem, what's a question I'd want to ask them? What would I want to know more about? Well, obviously we really hope you do, and when we're choosing the poems for the examination, we try and choose poems that will be accessible to you. But the important thing, obviously, you have to write about it, is that you will try and get inside it, tussle with it if necessary. And one way to do that actually is to listen to the poem for yourself. If you are reading it outside the examination, you would actually have the chance, I hope, to read it aloud. Try and do that in class or in your bedroom or anywhere. Just putting the words in your own mouth means you listen to them. You realize the importance of the stress, the particular choice of words, the line breaks, the rhymes, all of those things make a difference. If you've done drama lower down the school, I'm sure you have, you know there are lots of different ways of saying the same lines. You can try that with a poem. Now, in the examination, of course, you're not able to do that. You're not able to declaim it in the exam. But what you are hopefully able to do is listen to the poem, listen to the voice of the poem in your own head and hear how it might sound, because that's gives you a lot of insight into the fact that, first of all, this is poetry. It's not prose, it's not a newspaper article, it's something that's intended to be heard, even if only with your inner ear. Well, I think that I'd like to put it as a number of, I hope, fairly simple questions. Am I reading enough poetry and other kinds of writing? What ways do I know of reading poetry? What do I find difficult about reading and understanding a poem? And what can I do about that? And am I doing enough of my own writing to learn about the way writing works and the choice of words and all the other things that go into creating a poem or any other kind of writing?